The government may have hidden one of the most extraordinary UFO incidents in history. Ordinary citizens claim to have seen a creature unlike anything on Earth.
An alien shipwreck has been found on the corner of William Nicol in Santon Drive. I don't know if this is real, but I have searched it, and it seems, according to Adam Weber, the creative director of Joe Public, the UFO scene is part of a national brand activation for Clover and Future Life's new smart drink.
And their accounts suggest a military operation that spanned continents. Evidence was allegedly seized, witnesses silenced, and the city of Varginha was never the same again. Over decades, the story has sparked endless debate and speculation among UFO enthusiasts worldwide. In this video, we are going to dive deep into the mysterious Varginha UFO incident.
James Fox's Alien from the Varginha film,
Oh, yeah.
which smelled like sulfur.
Right.
And there's biblical accounts of demons smelling like sulfur and having cloven feet. So did that exactly describes that being in
Right.
James's documentary.
Right.
The hospital smelled like sulfur for like a week after, they said.
And the guy who was handling it died of a horrible infection.
And reveal what might have really happened. In the quiet city of Varginha, Brazil, tucked within the green hills of Minas Gerais, an ordinary day in January 1996 was about to become anything but ordinary. It was the 20th of January, and the morning began like usual, with locals handling their daily tasks, unaware that the day would soon be marked by events that would draw worldwide attention. As the early hours unfolded in Varginha, the morning mist lifted slowly, revealing a clear sky. Up to this point, everything appeared normal. As the sun continued to rise, Brazilian Air Defense received an unexpected call from the North American Aerospace Defense Command, better known as NORAD. They informed Brazil that they had detected an object entering Earth's atmosphere near Varginha. When Brazilian officials asked what the object was, NORAD simply replied, "It's unidentified." Soon after that call, a sudden wave of uneasiness moved through the city as residents looked upward and noticed something unusual cutting through their morning routine. Eyes widened and hearts pounded as a strange object appeared in the sky, reflecting the early light. Descriptions differed, but many spoke quietly about a cigar-shaped UFO, an image so unusual that it didn't seem to belong to this world. The object released thick white smoke, leaving a long trail behind it. Its movements were uneven, zigzagging across the sky as if it were fighting against something unseen. It dipped and swayed, capturing the attention of anyone who happened to glance up. As it dropped quickly toward the outskirts of the city, the air became filled with both fear and anticipation. A mix of curiosity and dread settled over the community as the object disappeared behind the hills, leaving only smoke and countless unanswered questions. One witness, Carlos de Souza, said he saw what looked like a damaged object flying overhead before crashing into a nearby field. He assumed it was a regular aircraft, possibly a small plane, so he rushed there, thinking someone might need help. But the moment he arrived, he realized this was not an ordinary aircraft. As he stepped out of his car, he was hit with a strong smell of ammonia and rotten eggs, and his eyes began to water from the odor. The grass looked burned, as if it had been touched by acid. His eyes stayed locked on the strange metallic object, which was about the size of a small school bus. He bent down and picked up a piece of the debris. Carlos explained that it looked and felt like aluminum foil. However, when he crushed it in his hand, it instantly returned to its original shape. Not long after he examined the debris, the Brazilian military, ESA, arrived at the location. A soldier pointed a rifle at him and ordered him to leave the area, and he obeyed. A few days later, 3 young girls, Lillian, Valkyria, and Katia, went out for a walk to get away from the afternoon heat. They wandered through an empty lot in Varginha, a place they had played in many times before. They talked and laughed, unaware that something unforgettable was waiting ahead. Their relaxed walk came to a sudden stop when something caught Lillian's attention. She froze mid-sentence, staring at a figure crouched near a wall. The other girls followed her gaze, their laughter stopping instantly as they saw the creature too. What stood in front of them was unlike anything they had ever imagined. The creature was around 5 feet tall, with large red eyes that glowed intensely, giving it an eerie look. The eyes were unsettling, a deep red that appeared to burn from within. Its skin was oily and brown, shining strangely in the sunlight as if covered in a slick, unfamiliar substance. But what hit them first, and what made the moment even more frightening, was the smell, an overpowering mix of ammonia and decay that hung in the air like a heavy fog. The creature moved slowly, its body language showing clear signs of injury or extreme weakness. Each movement seemed difficult, as though it was struggling just to stay upright. It made no sound, but its presence alone felt overwhelming, filling the moment with fear. The girls couldn't move, their hearts racing. They stood frozen as the creature turned its glowing eyes toward them. For a brief moment, everything felt silent, as if time itself had paused. The creature looked at them in a way that suggested it might have been afraid as well. Terrified, the girls finally screamed and ran as fast as they could. They didn't stop until they reached their homes. Still shaking, out of breath, and crying, they told their families what they had seen, describing the creature in vivid detail. The story of the girls' encounter spread quickly through Varginha. People whispered about the strange being with red eyes and oily skin, passing the details from person to person. As the hours went by, the entire city seemed to be talking about the strange sighting. When the report reached local authorities, they acted immediately. Police officers, already cautious after earlier UFO sightings, took the girls' claims seriously. Military trucks raced toward the empty lot, where the creature had been spotted. Their arrival drew the attention of residents, who gathered nearby, watching anxiously. Soldiers stepped out with serious expressions as they began blocking off the area where the creature had appeared. Witnesses kept their distance. A few tried to push past the blockade to see what was happening, and were warned they would be arrested. Some were even told force would be used if they didn't comply. They were informed it was a national security issue. Military personnel in fatigues, carrying rifles, swept through the area. They moved with purpose as they searched for any trace of the creature. Some residents said they saw officers carrying covered objects, while others mentioned strange, quiet exchanges between the officers. Families stayed inside their homes, focused on their radios and televisions, hoping for any update. Rumors began spreading that one of the strange beings had been taken to the local hospital. According to these reports, the creature was transported under heavy security and brought through the hospital's back entrance to avoid attention. One such report centers on the tragic story of a young military officer named Marco Cereze. His family says he was part of the team assigned to capture the elusive creature that had frightened the locals. While on duty, he and another officer named Eric Lopez confronted the being after it suddenly appeared in front of their military vehicle on a road just 1 street away from where the girls had seen it. Cereze stepped out of the truck and managed to restrain the creature with his bare hands. He held it in the vehicle, and both men transported it to the local hospital. There, a technician was ordered to take X-rays of the creature, but the images were immediately seized by the military, and the radiologist wasn't allowed to view them. Cereze, who had grabbed the creature directly, described a strange greasy feeling covering his skin that doctors and nurses couldn't remove, along with a strong ammonia-like stench coming from the being. Soon after, he developed a mysterious infection that puzzled his doctors because it only grew worse despite treatment. Chereze spoke openly to the doctor who cared for him because he was afraid he was going to die from the infection. He hoped sharing every detail might help the medical team save him. But even with continued treatment, he passed away a few weeks later, leaving doctors confused. One of them said he had never seen anything like it in all his years of practice. Chereze's family insists he died from something he caught from the creature, some kind of unknown bacteria his body couldn't fight off. It was later revealed that a sample of his blood contained 8% of an unidentified toxic substance. The military then ordered his body to be buried immediately to prevent any chance of spreading the infection. According to credible reports, Chereze wasn't the only one involved in capturing a strange being that day. On January 20th, 1996, just hours before the girl's sighting and about 6 miles from the earlier location seen by D'Souza, frightened witnesses called the local fire department. They described a strange figure moving through the shadows of the woods near their home. The fire brigade soon arrived. Witnesses claimed the firemen located the creature and caught it with a net. It was said that it cried like a child when it was taken into custody. The creature was then brought to the hospital, where doctors and nurses examined it, yet no one seemed to know what to do next. The staff stood around the being, looking at one another in a mix of confusion and fear. Military officials from Escola de Sargentos das Armas, also known as ESA, arrived quickly and took the creature into their custody. The section of the hospital where the creature had been kept remained closed for 2 to 3 days because the cleaning crew couldn't remove the smell of ammonia. A few weeks later, one of the firemen who had helped capture the creature also died from an unknown toxic poisoning. People close to the case said his condition was very similar to what happened to Marco Chereze. Around 50 doctors and hospital employees were placed under strict non-disclosure agreements. Some were warned they could face prison if they ever spoke about the incident. They were told it was a matter of national security. Reports indicate that the Brazilian army, particularly from ESA, handled the transport of the creature from Humanitas Hospital. The beings were taken to the ESA military base in Tres Corações, where they stayed overnight for further examination. This move was carried out under heavy secrecy with a strong military presence. After the initial medical evaluations, it was believed that the bodies were moved to the ESPCEX Army base in Campinas. This transfer was reportedly made so the creatures could undergo detailed scientific study and autopsy. ESPCEX was said to have the proper equipment and specialists to analyze them. Eventually, the bodies were taken by the United States Air Force. A Brazilian air traffic controller stated that 2 U.S. Air Force planes landed in Campinas and removed the bodies. News of these reports spread fast, leaking from within the hospital and reaching the eager public. The mix of the military's quick and concealed actions and the quiet accounts from hospital workers created a powerful wave of fear and curiosity. Media outlets, already focused on the earlier events of the day, quickly picked up the new developments. Journalists rushed into Virginia, hoping to catch even the smallest detail that could offer answers. The authorities stayed silent, refusing to confirm or deny anything. The secrecy surrounding the situation created space for non-stop speculation. The story spread quickly and gained nationwide attention almost instantly. The media storm soon reached the Brazilian government, and official channels began filling with questions and demands for clarification. As pressure from the public and the media continued to grow, government officials held an emergency meeting to decide how to respond. On the morning of May 8, 1996, the ESA General Lima military base addressed the country in a quickly organized press conference. An official investigation led by the Brazilian military concluded in 2010 that the young girls had encountered a homeless, mentally unstable man known as Medino. The commander of the 24th Police Battalion showed photographs of Medino and stated that a citizen known as Mudinho, who likely had a mental disability and whose physical appearance matched the girl's description, made it likely that this individual, possibly dirty from heavy rains and crouched near a wall, was mistaken by the frightened girls for a creature from another world. The spokesperson continued by attributing the entire event to misunderstandings and misidentifications. According to the official account, the cigar-shaped object seen in the sky was probably a regular aircraft or a weather balloon distorted by atmospheric conditions and by what the witnesses thought they saw. The head of the inquiry also stated that the military trucks and personnel observed that night were carrying out routine operations. Our findings indicate that there is no evidence to support the presence of extraterrestrial beings or a crashed UFO. Despite the government's attempts to downplay everything, the statements did little to calm the growing interest. Both skeptics and believers analyzed every part of the official story, pointing out inconsistencies and gaps. Why did the military respond so quickly and with such secrecy? What about the reports from hospital staff? And why were local witnesses so certain that what they saw was not ordinary? The three girls also said they had known Medino for years, and if it had been him, they would never have mistaken him for something else. These questions continued, driven by non-stop media coverage. Journalists spoke with anyone who claimed to have seen or heard anything. The stories they gathered formed a picture that did not line up with the government's explanation. The more officials dismissed the incident, the more the public's interest and suspicion increased. Witnesses held firmly to their accounts, refusing to back down despite skepticism and official denials. Among them were the three girls, Lillian, Valkyria, and Tia, who had come across the strange creature. They repeated their story to anyone willing to listen. Their openness, however, did not go unnoticed, and some people were far from pleased about it. A few months after the girls' encounter, on the night of April 28, 1996, at 9 p.m., while they were asleep, someone knocked at the door. Their mother opened it to find 4 unfamiliar men dressed entirely in black. One carried a briefcase and another held a clipboard. One of the men told her, "Tell the girls they saw nothing. The money in this briefcase can only be spent outside of Brazil." She answered, "Sir, I cannot do that. My daughters really saw something. I cannot label them as liars, nor can I lie myself. I won't accept this deal. Please leave my house, or I will call the police." The men continued insisting that the girls remain silent as their mother defended them. Eventually, the men left. The girl's mother remained convinced that what her daughters had seen was real. Other family members supported their story as well, insisting that something unusual had actually taken place. Carlos de Souza, who witnessed the UFO crash in the field, was also approached by men in black. He says that one morning he went to a gas station for coffee when 2 men in clean black suits walked up to him. "Are you Mr. Carlos de Souza? Look, it would be a shame if something were to happen." The men appeared to know everything about his personal life and relationships. Shocked by how much they knew, Carlos asked, "Who are you? How do you know that?" One of the men replied, "Listen, you didn't see anything. If someone asks, you know nothing. If not, things will get very strange for you. Now leave." De Souza stayed silent for 25 years before speaking to James Fox for the documentary The Moment of Contact. In the film, James Fox says that he located the military driver who transported the creature, a man he refers to only as Military X to protect his identity. Fox described what he learned during an interview with Joe Rogan, recounting the sequence of events. And he puts it in the back seat, and they drive it to a clinic, and the doctor is like, "What is that? Take it away. I don't know. Leave." So then it went to regional hospital, and then, eventually, it was taken to Humanitas Hospital. And we have testimony from Military X. We drove it from the Humanitas Hospital to a military base, where it stayed inside the truck for one night. Then it went from there to Espex Campinas. It's like a university. It's where the scientific experts work. And according to the witnesses we spoke to, it stayed there under examination for a day or two. That's when the Americans arrived in Campinas. Then, from Campinas, 2 helicopters flew to Varginha, Brazil. Varginha back to Campinas. Something was loaded onto the airplane, and then it was flown to the United States. And that's where the case goes cold. Military X says he was part of the team responsible for transporting the deceased extraterrestrial being from Humanitas Hospital to the ESA military base. In his account, he describes doctors gathered around the creature, which was lying inside a box on a stainless steel table. The body was mostly covered, but one part remained visible. A foot with dark, oily skin and a strange V-shaped form. Military X also claims that the body was later moved to a Brazilian military base in Sinas, where it was taken over by the United States military and flown back to the U.S. He states that the Brazilian authorities did not have the knowledge or equipment to deal with the situation, which led them to hand it over to the American team. In the end, the 3 girls' steady testimony helped secure the Varginha incident's place in UFO history. Their willingness to stand by their story, even when facing disbelief and ridicule, made sure the incident would not disappear from public memory. For Lillian, Valkyria, and Tia, the events of January 20th, 1996 became a defining part of their lives, turning the quiet city of Varginha into the center of one of the most talked-about UFO stories ever reported. Today, the city features several monuments dedicated to the sightings, including a UFO statue and another depicting the creature. Many people who once doubted the story are now convinced by it, including the current mayor. Over the years, the Varginha incident has continued to be a topic of discussion and debate. It is a story built on first-hand accounts from ordinary individuals who reported encountering something far outside their usual experiences, a narrative that still sparks interest and curiosity. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more shocking UFO stories. Share your thoughts in the comments. What do you think really happened in Varginha?